How's that? Woo! I will ponder all your work and meditate on your mighty deeds. So reflecting on the past isn't just about nostalgia. It's not just about looking back at the good old days. Because when we look back, we want to look back with gratitude. Now, I don't know if you caught that word in the last song we sang, but this word is called Ebenezer. And so an Ebenezer was a stone. And when I say a stone, it wasn't one that you could hold in your hand. It was a monument. And so in 1 Samuel, they talk about setting up these Ebenezers. For us today, war memorials, or when you see the word Ebenezer, that's what it's talking about. Historical markers. Just down the road, I don't know if I'm pointing in the right direction, but the Lady of the Snows shrine, that would be what we would call an Ebenezer. Has anyone ever driven past Effingham and past that humongous cross? That cross in Effingham would be an example of an Ebenezer. If you look just down the road on 64 as you drive through St. Louis, there's an Ebenezer there. What is that called? The Arch. Now, let me just ask you something. Have you ever driven to St. Louis and didn't even think about the Arch? The reality is a lot of us do that. If you're riding with somebody who is new to the area or just visiting, they say, wow, there's the Arch. I haven't said that in a long time. I've driven by it 100 times in the last 3 months, and not one time did I say, wow. Sometimes we drive by those Ebenezers and we forget. We don't ponder. We don't meditate on. We don't think about all that went into that. And so here, when I think about First Baptist Mascoutah, what are we going to do? Well, I want to lead us to reach our community. How can we serve our schools? How can we serve the students in the schools? How can we support local families? How can we partner with ministries that are meeting practical needs of people all throughout our town? Now, that seems like nice words, and every church should be doing this, but we experienced that over the last 7 years. We saw what going and intentionally reaching into our community looks like. But to do that, we have to be willing to embrace all people. You know, easier said than done. Just yesterday, we were sitting down at lunch, and one of the questions that we wrestled with is, I've heard it said that people say that we as Christians are judgmental. Have you ever heard that? And the sad reality is that is a true statement. Now, I don't know if we're always intentionally judgmental, but as Christians, we absolutely can come across that we're looking down on the other people that haven't walked with Christ for 20 years. So we have to be willing to embrace all people because the gospel is for everyone. So let's be a church where all feel welcome, regardless of their background, regardless of their age, regardless of their story. We want to love everybody. And then our doors must always be open wide, reflecting Christ's love. It's easy to say, let's be the hands and feet of Jesus. It's hard work to be the hands and feet of Jesus. It's hard work to love on people who don't want to be loved on in the moment. It's hard work to love on those who are hurting. Rhonda shared that. She was hurting. And what was interesting was that the church that she was at that had been doing the Embrace Grace, they canceled that ministry. Well, we see things like that and we think, well, holy cow, that's horrible. No, it wasn't. God knew that there was a church that was ready to take that ministry and do infinitely more. But we had to get through hurt. Carrie and I, when we moved to the Metro East area, my second assignment at Scott Air Force Base, we were coming in with a lot of hurt. And so we found the biggest church and hid there and went to First Baptist O'Fallon. Sat on the back row. You know, it's hard to sit on the back row in a big giant church like that. Carrie and I were dreaming a little bit, and we were talking about, where do we park everybody as the church grows? And I'm like, Main Street is, let's just take over Main Street. And then Carrie said something very profound. She goes, no matter where we park, they're still closer to the front door than when we would park in the parking lot at First Baptist O'Fallon. So I'm like, I'm going to put that as a selling point out on Facebook, all right? So if you're watching this, you won't have to walk as far. Here's the reality. We need to be a church where we accept people who don't look like us. Don't smell like us. They might not like your cologne or body odor. They don't dress like us. They don't talk like us. We've got to be willing to receive them right where they're at to let the gospel impact them. Because it's not me just being friendly or you just being friendly or meeting some needs. It's when the gospel takes heart in them. That's when life change happens. That's when transformation happens. And so now we have to figure out as a church, how do we balance the two? How do we balance looking back and learning from the past and living for the future? Well, first of all, we got to remember, don't dwell on the past. You see, there's a danger in getting stuck. See, if we only look back, we risk becoming a museum instead of a living church. And I'm just going to tell you that our country is filled with churches that were once thriving, that were once dynamic, that were once changing their community. And today, they are little more than relics. They're little more than museums. I mean, if you travel in some countries, like they turned them into museums. And unfortunately, sometimes here in America, as believers, we've turned our buildings into museums. We don't want to do that here in Mascoutah. Why? Because God is calling us to move forward. So what do we do? What is our next step? I believe it's a three-part. Number one is, let's honor the past. Let's celebrate our history. And we can do that with the longtime members. I shared with you Miss Helen. It just amazes me that she's been at the church more than 50 years. I've never been anywhere in my life. My dad was in the Army for 20 years. I was in the Air Force for 28 years. I tell people my hometown is Clarksville, Tennessee. I only spent 3 years living in Clarksville, Tennessee, and that's my hometown. And so when I see someone who's been there 50 years, and so I want to get a pulse of what is it like here at First Baptist Church Mascoutah. Has anyone been here more than 40 years at the church? Would you stand up if you've been here more than 40 years? Yeah, stay standing, stay standing. Has anyone been here 30 years or more? Will you join them standing? Yes. God bless you. How about 20 years? Has anyone been here 20? Oh, God bless. Look at this. Has anyone been here more than 7 years at First Baptist Church Mascoutah? Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. That is not the last time I'm going to ask you to stand up or do something. All right? And if you talk to anyone over here, they will tell you never, ever go to lunch with me. Because I've always got opportunities. And I like food, and I find that's an easy way to soften you up a little bit. So we want to honor our past. We want to honor all of those decades of service here at First Baptist Church. And the second thing is we want to engage the next generation. This is not something that's just new here in Mascoutah. This is something that is across the state of Illinois. The Illinois State Baptist Association is being intentional about engaging the next generation. So it doesn't matter how few students we have, we need to be intentional about engaging them. It doesn't matter how few young couples we have, we need to be intentional about engaging them here in the life of First Baptist Church, Mascoutah. And then the third thing is we need to set goals that impact eternity. Now, if you'll learn one thing about me is I love setting goals. But I don't just like setting goals. I like achieving goals. And so I've already sent out a letter. I hope you received it. If you haven't, the first goal I have for us as a church is to, and I'm calling it the 100 and 100 campaign. All right? And what does that mean? The challenge is let's see more than 100 people sitting in this room on Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday is, I think it's 97 days or 94 days into 2026. And so I believe that we as a church can see on Easter Sunday, April 5th, more than 100 people. Now, do we want that just so that we can say we saw 100 people? No, we want that so that people that have never heard the gospel get to hear it. People get exposed to a church that loves Jesus and loves people. And so as we stand in this moment, looking back at the history, looking back at all those Ebenezer stones, and then we look forward and you dream a little bit with me, let's hold fast to Paul's challenge from Philippians. Let's thank him for the past. God has been faithful, hasn't he, First Baptist Church? But he's not done. And let's trust him for the future. How do we do that? We step boldly into the mission that he's given us. The way that Paul said it in Philippians chapter 3 is he says, I press on. I lean in. I mean, can you just picture this? A runner finishing the race and he's coming up to the tape and he leans trying to get past the person beside them. That's what Paul was saying in Philippians. Press on. Will you press on with me as we lean into the future, as we lean into what God is doing here in the city of Mascoutah? What does that look like? Well, it looks like we take action. One specific way that God wants you to contribute to the vision here in Mascoutah. I'll give you some examples. Do you want to serve other people? I was just talking with Chris this morning about our Christmas dinner that we saw 1,200 meals given out in just a few hours' time. This week, on Thursday, we are going to be serving that Oasis community meal. And if you want to be a part of that, if you want to be the hands and feet of Jesus, reach out to Emily. Emily, would you raise your hand right here? So after the service, come up and let Emily know, hey, I want to be a part of helping serve the Oasis community meal. You want to make a difference? Next Sunday, we're going to have a table full of baby bottles. And I would encourage you, take one of those baby bottles home and fill it up with coins. And if you don't have coins, they take checks. It doesn't fill the bottle up as cool as the coins do. But take a baby bottle next week. Do you want to lean in? Join us on January 13th, Tuesday night at 6:30 here in the church for the church council. Now, I know in the past, you may have not gone to any of the church council meetings. I'm inviting everybody, come to the church council meeting. Why? Because I'm going to share with you what are we going to do to see 100 people here on April 5th. Not only that, what are we going to do to see 150 people every Sunday calling First Baptist Church Mascoutah their home church? If you'll join us on the 13th, I'll share that with you. It's not secret, it's out there, but this is an opportunity for me to get that to you. You want to connect with other people? The ladies have a ladies' night out on the 15th. Show up for that. Introduce yourself. Want to watch God work in a powerful way? Starting on Monday the 19th, I'm going to assemble what I call the assimilation team. These are the people that are come together every Monday at 10 a.m. and we'll work just for 2 hours and help the process of finding our guests a place to serve, a place to get connected, a place to get engaged. You want to start today. You may not have noticed it, but if you look at the seats in front of you, there's this card sticking up, and there's this little funny-looking graphic on there. It's called a QR code. And if you have a smart device, if you pull that out and open up your camera, it will take you to a page that has all the information I think that is important for somebody to have relating to our church. I just learned this about our phones this week. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but have you ever taken a picture with your phone before? Yeah. All right. So what I found out is because our granddaughter was coming over to the house, and Carrie would take pictures, and her pictures were a lot better than my pictures. And I'm like, honey, what are you doing that's different? And she said that I use portrait mode. So if you take a picture in portrait mode, so you guys, big smile right over here. All right, there we go, big smiles. All right, I just did portrait mode. Some of you are blurred out in the back. A couple of you, let's do this over here. I'll do the same thing. Portrait mode picture, all right. Now, this morning, I came across a video, and it says something that nobody knows about the iPhone. And then it shared that you can take a picture that you've already taken, and like it automatically focused on whatever it wanted to. But I can change the focus. If you'll pull that picture back up of the rearview mirror and you look and you notice that on this graphic, the rearview mirror is in focus. Have you ever driven down the road looking at your rearview mirror? Very briefly, right? Like, what if you just focused on the rearview mirror the whole time you're driving? You are going to be in an accident. I guarantee you that's going to happen. And so what we have to do is we have to change our focus from that rearview mirror. It's good. The rearview mirror is nice. It's great to have. We need it. All right? I don't want to have a car without it. The newer cars have the backup cameras. Has anyone grown to appreciate those things? Get in a car that doesn't. And you're like, how did we do this for years? For decades, how? And then the newer the car, the better the camera, the wider the lens. And now they've got these cars that it takes a 360-degree picture from around the vehicle. Those are nice. And we need them when we're backing up. And we need them sometimes just to look back there and make sure the police aren't getting too close to us. Make sure that another car is not getting too close to us. But the reality is that we need to spend our time driving focused out the front windshield. And so, First Baptist Church Mascoutah, we want to change our focus. It's good to look back. It's good to appreciate the Ebenezer stones. But what we want to do is look forward. And so, here's what I will close with, and it's my life verse. My life verse is this, Psalm 127 and verse 1. It says, except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. I'll just tell you that for the last 7 years, I have had to give God back the church 100 times. Because it is easy for me to take and try to do in my own strength. But 100 times over those 7 years, I gave God the church back. And so here's what I would encourage you today. Maybe you're like 90% of the people out there. 90% of the people are making New Year's resolutions. They're making promises to themselves. And maybe you're one that said, you know what, 2026 is going to be different. It's going to be different in the nutrition that I put in my body. It's going to be different in the amount of hours that I spend working out and physically. It's going to be different in the way that I handle my relationships. Those are all good things, and I would encourage you, do them. But at the end of the day, at the end of the year, if we could fast forward to December 31st of 2026, and you're the only person who builds your life, you'll be in the same spot. You'll need to give your life to God. Except the Lord build the house. Except the Lord build your life. except the Lord build this church, except the Lord build your relationships, except the Lord do it, what does it say? You labor in vain. The reality is many of us have labored in vain a lot in our lives. We could probably look at whole years and decades sometimes where we did it in our own strength. We did it. Frank Sinatra, didn't he have a song that says, how did he do it? His way, that's right. But all those people who sing that song, I did it my way, one day have to give an account for that. The reality is that every one of us will have to give an account for how we handle 2026. And I hope and I pray that when you stand before God, that 2026 was a year that He built, was a year that He controlled, was a year that you did it God's way. You heard Rhonda share it, and you're going to hear me say it 1,000 times over the next years, and that is this: in God's economy, it just works. If we will open up God's Word and we will follow the instructions written in here, even though everything online tells us that that's silly instructions. Everything, the people with the longest degrees say that doesn't, make sense. That doesn't work. I'm here to tell you that in God's economy, every one of these words, if we will live them out, work to our benefit. The problem is there's not enough people who take God up on His word. And so today, let's take God up on His word. Except the Lord build First Baptist Church Mascoutah, we labor in vain who try to build it. Pray with me.